Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate you tuning us in as we kick off a brand new week with the legend himself, little Jimmy Goodall, Uncle Jimbo, whatever you want to call him. He is here tonight, and God, I love him. I love him so much, and I'm so happy you guys are here for a great show of aviation talk tonight. But first, we got to get through to each and every one of you, as we have T-Bone in the gold medal position, Cage Cat in the silver, Amy Allo taking home her first bronze medal tonight. Hello, Kitty Cattywhack. How are you? And Tim Mothman and his goatee. Welcome. As we scroll on down to Stargazer, Race Fan, and of course, let's see here. Mel WD40 is here lubing us up for tonight's show. Because when you talk to Jim Goodall, you got to be nice and lubed. You can't be dry because otherwise it's never any fun. Trust me, I've hung out with this guy enough in Vegas. So thank you, Mel, for the lube. Don't forget to give yourself a little shot as well. Thunderhead, how are you? Paula Foss, nice to see you. Necessary Dialogue and Robert Lamar, thank you for joining us. Michael Morris, good to have you here. Missouri Man is here. Missouri Man will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Luscious Jules, how are you? Nice to see you tonight. As we scroll on down on our roll call, and next we will say hi to Frankie B, as well as Mama Catherine. There she is. Mwah. She never misses a night with Jim Goodall. Never misses a night. Love you, Mama Catherine. I hope you enjoy tonight's show. You're the best. You really are the best. Love her. Oh, Mama Catherine. I can't wait to give her a hug. Stephanie Kenny Blankenship, how are you tonight? As we continue on with our roll call, and who is next? Well, let's take a look here. Let's see. Kurt M., nice to see you as well. Who is next on our list? Well, let's scroll on down and find out, shall we? It's Desert Rat, everybody. Look at that. T-Bone, thank you for kicking off the super chat tonight. A wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you very, very much. And T-Bone again. Wow. For Grant, thank you, buddy. Appreciate you. Be like T-Bone, everybody. Be like T-Bone. Carol Amario, how you doing? Nice to see you as we scroll on down on our roll call. And up next, we will say hello to Thomas Rock. Nice to have you here. And let's see. Flubber Lane, good to see you. Cowie Snyder is here. Cowie will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Integrationing, nice to see you. Panda on Fire, thanks for coming on in. Gary J. and Millennium, my man, always a pleasure. Undead Jed, nice to see you tonight. Red Frog, welcome to SOR chat. And Bill Sardellis, good to see you. Good morning or good afternoon to you. Aussie Ange, looking lovely. Skip to Malou, good morning to you. Al Garay over on Twitch, so excited about Jim Goodall being on the show. He literally catapulted over 5 SR-71 Blackbirds to warm up for tonight's show. Thank you, Al Gray. I'm glad you didn't hurt your knees on the landing. Good job. Good job. Erica Stover, nice to see you. Let's get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott, and we have legendary aviation historian Jim Goodall here. He is in the Hall of Fame for aviation in the United States. This guy is a legend, absolute legend, and we're glad to have him here. We're in roll call on our YouTube side. We say hello next to Digger Dog and What in Tarnation. Nice to see you. Walter, good to see you, my friend. East Coast Turnaround on X. Mr. Cowley, nice to have you here. United We Stand, thanks for joining us. As we scroll on down, get ready for tonight's show. Louise, nice to have you here. Thank you for coming on in. And Peter Ryan, welcome to SOR Chat. Sandy B, welcome to SOR Chat. We're close. Magnus for Magnuson, Whoopoo, nice to see you. K17 Odd, there you are. And throw those horns up, everybody. Let's rock.
Are you ready to hear your mystic voice of the night?
It's time to wake up.
He's here. Shush. Be quiet. He's ready for you to listen. Let's point our ears towards the little cabin in the woods, where together, my friends, we own the night. It's time for Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott.
From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We have a great show tonight. What is secretly flying in our sky? Well, Jim Goodall is going to break it all down for us here coming up momentarily. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller will join us for a creepy story, follow up by a new sounding UFO report. The lip-bladed one, Grant Tavius. He likes Grant Tavius. His parents couldn't just name him Grant. They named him Grant Tavius. Maximum for our UFO Max report coming on up. Let's get right to it. If you've never heard of Jim Goodall, well, you are in for a treat tonight. He is a renowned aviation historian, author, and researcher whose lifelong dedication to documenting America's most secretive and most special aircraft, boats, submarines has made him international recognition. In fact, recently he was just involved in the United States Aviation Hall of Fame. About a year ago, he got accepted. So we have a Hall of Famer on the show, best known for his unparalleled work chronicling classified aircraft development. Goodall has spent decades building trusted relationships within the aerospace and military communities, granting him a rare insight into legendary programs such as the SR-71 Blackbird, F-117 Nighthawk, the U-2, and other Skunk Works projects. But most of all, I got to say this. Jimmy is 80 years old, still sharp as a whip, and a good friend of this show. And I love him dearly. He is one of my heroes and idols in this field. Jim Goodall, always a pleasure to have you on Spaced Out Radio. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I'm always honored to be on SOR. I mean, Dave and I met in March of 20?
March of 2020 at UFO Con in San Francisco.
Yeah, that was the first MUFON function I'd ever been to. And when you walked into the bar, or I walked into the bar, however it turns out, I see this guy with a huge beard, long hair. But I looked at him and I said, I like that guy. And I knew right then and there we were going to be friends. And we've maintained that for a while now. I mean, longer than most marriages.
Well, no kidding. But Jim, I got to tell you, that first night I ever met you, I remember you, me, Olive Phillips, and I forget who the fourth one was. Maybe it was Science Bob, because that's the weekend I met Science Bob too.
Yeah, Schratt was there as well, wasn't
And
he?
Michael Schratt. We were sitting at this bar table, and I sat there. I'm a pretty loud guy. I sat there silently for about 3.5 hours listening to you and Bob speak about all this intelligence stuff, about all of these aircraft, and I was in my glory. And then I find out that you've actually been to my hometown, Abbotsford, British Columbia, many a times to the big air show that they have there. And I was like, wow, you were like I was idolizing you from like minute number one.
I'm just an enthusiast who, once I get focused on something, I usually don't back down, and I usually try to jump in with both feet. So what started me on this path started on March 10th, 1964. I was an 18-year-old airman second on the flight line at Edwards Air Force Base, and I hear this incredible roar. And I looked down the flight line, and here I thought it was the X-15 rocket plane, but everybody was too small. And I think, what the hell is that? There's fire coming out, blowing dust all the way across Rogers Dry Lake. And I was taking the Northrop shuttle, which was a Piaggio, I think 12-passenger, and it flew between Edwards Air Force Base and, at the time, Northrop's headquarters in Hawthorne, California, suburb of LA. And all of a sudden they yelled, "Hey, we're taking off. You better get up there." We're running in, got a seat. Turns out, as he took off, he banked over, and I'm looking straight down on this thing. And I have never been the same. And I got back. I had extra time off because I worked overtime. They don't pay you anything in the military, but you'll get comp time for overtime. And my first work order on Monday morning literally less than a week after I first saw my first Blackbird from the side and the top, I was in the Lockheed hangar at Edwards. And I walk into the back of the hangar and I'm looking at the rear end of 2 Blackbirds. Now, this is only 15 years since Yeager had gone Mach 1 in a rocket-powered airplane. Here I'm looking at 2 huge airplanes, mostly fuel. That was the last major aircraft design, military aircraft design, used totally, everything was done with slide rules. There were no calculators, there were no computers back in the day. My dad's computer was a 32-inch long K&E slide rule. And you think, okay, that was 1964. It's been 60 some odd years. They haven't been sitting on their thumb. I keep hearing about, a lot of the stuff we see flying through space and you can't explain isn't from outer space, it's from Area 51. But I know it's not from Area 51, maybe somewhere else close. But so we haven't been sitting on our thumb. In February it was either 82 or 83, I was invited to a banquet from the Director of Engineering for Honeywell's Military Avionics Division. It's called Ridgeway. They're in the St. Paul area of the Twin Cities. The keynote speaker was Kelly Johnson, the founder of the Skunk Works. Now, mind you, this is 1983, maybe even 82. So we're looking at a long time ago. Kelly Johnson is 2/3 of the way through his talk, he says, "Yeah, and you want to know how fast?" People were saying, "How fast can you go?" He said, "Today we have the technology to go to Mach 4, full for cruising at Mach 4, Mach 6, Mach 8, Mach 12, Mach 16. Speed costs money. How fast do you want to go?" So to say that, well, there's not much I can say about what's going on in Area 51. Hell, they've doubled the size, tripled the size of the place since I was up here on top of Whitesides with the guys from Popular Science and John Andrews. That was 1993, 94 timeframe. And then the SO base took it away from us because for the safety of the general public. No, keep Goodall's eyes out from snooping on us.
Man.
So and as a military historian, that's what I did. In my job in the military, I was a Air Force historian. When you have aircraft designations, they have to sit in a specific box on fighters, transport, tankers, so on, yes. And you have prefixes, suffixes. Okay, we had the F-22, and I know we had the YF-23, which was the Northrop airplane, which flew faster and we had lower radar cross-section than the Lockheed F-22, but they didn't want to have Northrop to have all the stealth technology, so they gave some of it back to the Skunk Works. Even though the Blackbird was the first low observable aircraft. Subsonic had a very, very small radar cross-section. At Mach 3, radar cross-section was about 10 square miles. But you got something in your eye? Did I spit on you? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you got something in my eye there.
Yeah. So, with Kelly Johnson saying that many years ago, decades ago, before a lot of you were even born, that we have the ability to go as fast as Mach 16 in a manned air-breathing machine. We haven't, we don't have 2,000 cars parked in front of, the Lockheed facility in Palmdale, over at Site 2 or at Site 10 or Site 7. There's a lot of people out there, not counting all the subcontractors that are doing things that aren't on a military installation, such as Air Force Plant 42 in Palmdale. I've seen things take off from Palmdale at night. I know it was twin engine and it was afterburning, but the silhouette and the just setting, there was just a little bit of twilight. There's still a little orange glow as this thing turned. It did not have the silhouette of any airplane that I'm aware of. So stuff goes in and out of there at night. It's just amazing. I had a laugh. I had people checking me when we were getting ready to dismantle our Blackbird. Jim Goodall was going to be on, within the boundaries of Air Force Plant 42 for a week. Oh my God, we have to readjust our schedule. But
really, I know for people who may not know you, Jimmy, you're not an egotistical guy. You're a realist. So really, they would change flight plans over if they knew you were in the area photographing?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember as I was Stu Brown from Popular Science, we're getting a tour of their Nevada test site. I'm with Warren James, who really is a rocket scientist. He worked for McDonnell Douglas there in Seal Beach, Long Beach area. And we're standing at the edge of the Sedan crater. It's 1,300 feet across and about 400 feet deep. It's part of Operation Plowshare. Can we use nuke weapons to make a canal, dig a canal through Central America to join the Caribbean and the Pacific? And all of a sudden I heard a crack on the radio. This is security. He says, do you have a Mr. Goodall in your group? Affirmative. Said, will you please escort Mr. Goodall and his associates to building such and such, which was the operations center for nuke testing. and we'll let you know when he can come out.
Oh,
So they keep. I'm one of their favorite people. I heard one guy that knew the security people there at the time. I was spending a lot of time out in the desert, and he said when they started taking away your vantage points, it started getting boring. So they really enjoyed the crazy dreamland interceptors that we called ourselves. There's about 10 of us, and there's only 2 of us left. There's Stu Brown, who is in a managed care facility right now, who's my pop side guy, and me. Everybody else, no, Roger Hill's still around, Chief Roger Hill. But I think everybody else is gone. I guess when you get up into the multi-decades, stuff like that happens. But what's going on in the military? Well, like I say, you knew when they built the F-20, when they had the F-23, and then the next thing you know, it's the F-35. Now, there's a whole bunch of numbers in between. I know there's a lot of things that are designated. They give them an F number or a YF number or an XF number, however they want to designate it. And it may be a paper airplane, and it may get so far. Maybe during wind tunnel testing, they realize it's not going to, it's going to have terrible handling qualities, or we realize that, my God, from certain angles, it has a huge radar cross section. We have, we're flying things out there today that are unknown by most everybody that have a radar cross section smaller than the end of a safety pin. The pins like you have in your shirt, when you bought a new one and you had 20 pins and you only found 18 of them or 19 of them, you put it on, it sticks. That kind of pin.
yes, sir.
That end of that needle is. That's how big the airplane's supposed look like on radar. The F-117 doesn't really have a radar cross section. And look at what we did in Venezuela. We were there for 20 minutes on the ground. I mean, and all of the best former Soviet, now Russian and Chinese air defense radars and weapons and everything else, they're sitting there going, dude, what's happening? What's all the noise? None of the radar works. They didn't get one missile off. With like guys shooting up in the air, but they landed. They were able to get this guy before he got into his vault and had him on an airplane less than 40 minutes after all this started. And they were using weapons. People say they were using weapons that we're not aware of. Well, they've been using high energy or high intense audio. They go your brown sound. They were using that. They would have used that at Area 51 on Storm Area 51, which was November 2019. And what happens if they hit you with that sound? Your bowels say, "Hey, I'm out of here," and they just empty. And your level of enthusiasm is diminished, dramatically if you have a pants full of poop. So they were using some of that stuff in even more powerful stuff in Venezuela. And there were craft there that they couldn't identify. It's probably the stealth Blackhawk, like when they went after Osama bin Laden, and that one crashed. Those fly. They fly in. They usually fly into Amarillo for servicing, even though that's where Bell has their production facilities for the Osprey, and I think Blackhawks are being built there now. But since that was a special operations stealth airplane, they had it. They wanted Bell to take care of it. So that stuff is we've had spooky stuff going on forever. In November of 2018, my friend of mine, Steve Douglas, photographed what he thought were 2 B-2s at 30,000 feet flying over Amarillo. So he sent me the raw images. He said, "Can you do something with these? Or, I think they get sharpened up or cleaned up or whatever." So the magic of Photoshop, I went in and adjusted color, adjusted contrast. Then when I hit tone, all of a sudden it went from a light gray to a lighter gray to to a dark background and an airplane that looked like the B-21. It only had 3 trailing edge points on it. And this is 2018, and it was as big as a B-2 because the B-2 was using itself and its contrail to hide whatever this, it's probably the B-21 Raider full-scale technology demonstrator, I would guess. But it was flying right with the B-2s, and when the B-2s went off, you can measure the wingspan, and I figured it was about the same, turned out to be the same size as the new Northrop Grumman B-21 Raider, the new stealth bomber.
Let me ask you something here, Jim, quickly, because we got 3 minutes left. Jim Goodall is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Jim, you talk about the number designation, and where I remember first catching on to that was the YF-17 became the F-18 or the FA-18. Okay, and then all of a sudden we jumped to F-22.
You had the F-20, which was the Northrop
Tiger Shark,
and the F-21 was the Marines version of the Kafir.
Okay,
Israeli. It's a Mirage, modified Mirage.
Okay, so if we then go up to so that brings us to F-22. What happened to F-23 through 35?
Well, F-23 is the Northrop Black Widow, as they called it, and there's one at the Western Aviation Museum there in Hawthorne, and there's one at the Air Force Museum. I was there for the rollout of that thing. It should have won, but like I said earlier, the Department of Defense didn't want Northrop to have 100% of all the stealth technology. When in fact the F-117 still has a lower and smaller radar cross section than any of the 5th and 6th generation stealth airplanes out there today that's flying or in test. So because its physical properties, not only the coatings and stuff.
So what about the F-24 through 34 then?
All right, actually the 33. They were probably paper airplanes. They may have had a special mission attached to them. They may have built 1 or 2. I mean, there are de Havilland -8s that the Air Force flies out of Tyndall Air Force Base, Panama City, and they're the E9, which is an electronic, EC9. They're electronic warfare thing for the range out there out in the Gulf. So there's, the Air Guard flew flew Boeing 727-200s, and they were and 100s, and they were classified as the C-22, C-21A or B.
Right.
So there's, but they had. I don't know. I don't know. It's by law. I thought that was the directive that everything has to go numerically in the proper order. Those may be flying at some other location that we're not aware of. I know there's a site in the extreme northeast corner of Nevada. A friend of mine who's a hunter was hunting Nat General Hennessy. I think it was geese.
Jimmy, we got to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. We're going to talk about the numeric logic of military aircraft. Legendary aviation historian, aviation Hall of Famer Jim Goodall is here tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I love these conversations. I hope you do too. We're going to be right back, everybody. All right, Jimmy, we're clear. Good start, buddy.
Oh, good. I mean, I'm familiar with it. I know they're flying stuff out there.
Yeah. Well, I was just looking at the F-26 looks like an updated, reconfigured F-15 Eagle, and it's called the Black Eagle.
It's very possible.
Yeah. I'm just going through the numbers here on Google, like F-27. There really isn't nothing except the old Fokker F-27.
No.
Oh, the Navy had the F-27 Banshee back in the day.
Yeah, but you're looking post-62 numbering. That's when everything was
apparently the F-28 is called the Saber Cat, which is a modern version of the F-14 Tomcat.
Well, that was a maintenance monster. I mean, it was a very capable airplane.
Mm-hmm.
But there were only two swing wing aircraft were ever fully operational. That's the F-14 and the B-1, and the B-1s are still flying today. There's about 15 of them there at AMARC that you're going to start cutting up one of these days, because they can't be modified to the current salt standard in airframe, in the airframe. But so I don't know. It infuriates me as a historian that they'll go and destroy stuff because they don't want a paper trail, and they don't want anybody. So you spend an awful lot of money on that airplane, and it looks like we didn't get much for much money for much bang for a buck. And they were taking the flight suit for all the A-12 pilots since the program came to an end, and they had a beautiful hard-bodied carry-on with the helmet and everything else. They threw it in the trench, poured JP4 all over it, set it on fire, burn it. That's how they got rid of it. There's 4 big trenches that if they decide to go digging at some point in the future, if Area 51 ever becomes open to the general public or to it becomes an unrestricted area, it'd be interesting. It'd be very interesting. I'd love to be there. At one time, Pete Ames, who is the deputy director of program security for special projects, said there have been discussions over the years to pull a group of journalists together that have a strong interest on the products that are flight tested at Area 51, fly them over there on a Janet flight, have a couple Pavehawks available for them to go fly and do an aerial stuff, and then pull a bunch of stuff out that have come and gone. That's just sitting in hangars, just collecting dust. That would remove the mystique from Area 51 by all but the diehard ones like me. But that never came to pass. That was the late '90s, early 2000s, and then but I don't think it had anything to do with post 9/11. And I don't know if you realize that the Ayatollah was taken out on the 9th month of their new year, and the 11th day of it came after the F1. The F-111 came on after the F-110, which turned into the F-4 Phantom. That was a Navy airplane that they designated as the F-110.
Hi, Dizzle in Motion. Welcome to SOR Chat. Dan Peters, how are you? You might know Dizzle in Motion, my friend.
Yeah, I recognize the face.
Yeah.
You can't hide that mug from anybody.
You can't be that ugly and not get recognized, that's for sure.
Yes.
Blue Cruz, how are you?
Is that my red Corvette?
Probably.
In the corner?
Probably. Well,
Yeah,
he drives one of them fancy Teslas.
Testicles? Oh, Teslas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but the F-111 was the number that came before that was the F-110, was the new designation in 1962. They changed it to F4. It was the F4A, and it was.
All right, buddy, we're coming back in
Okay.
10 seconds. Big thank you to Mama Catherine and T-Bone ×2 for the great super chats in the studio. How you doing? Here we go, everybody. We are into the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for tuning us in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, we want to remind all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, our archives are always free on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here he is, aviation historian, Hall of Famer, Jim Goodall, hanging out with us. We were talking about the numerics of fighter jets. Jim, does it work the same for the bombers? Because bombers always used to have like a bigger number. I mean, going back to World War II, you had the B-29, the B-25, the B-47, the B-58, moving out of that, more into the Korean Vietnam times, the B-36. Now we got the B-52, which is still the king among kings.
Yeah.
And now we have the B-1, B-2, and then now it jumps back up to B-21.
And that, for someone who feels responsible for when I was doing a military history for the Air Force, that I had to keep my ducks in a row. I couldn't just pull it out of my rear and put it in. I don't know. I didn't see anywhere where there was authorization for them to alter or to jump from B2 to B-21, and there's a lot of stuff in between, and I know there aren't that many there aren't that many bomber prototypes or even paper airplanes that were they were put together in that time frame. It should have been the B3. They would probably would have done something about the B4. I don't know how that would be a hard one to find a nomenclature for, or proper one. But it should have been the B3, not the B-21 Raider. Random guy said, "What about the F-111?" We're talking about that during the break. Well, there was an F-110. It was the temporary designation of a Navy F-4, I think it was Navy F-4A, that was on loan to the Air Force that would become the Air Force F-4C. And I even have photo of the F-4 with F-110A on the side of it, Phantom 2. So that change off was in the very early 60s, and they should have adhered. They should have adhered to the proper way to designate a bomber or a fighter or a cargo aircraft. After a certain number, they want to start. They want to start all over again. So they, same with the Cs, and we're up to the C-17, C-18, whatever. But the ones that I drives me nuts are the missing participants from starting F-24 to F-33. I'd love to see something pop up on those, because those weren't just random numbers, and they didn't give it the F-35 designation on purpose. There was a reason. They had a lot of people in line to that had probably flyable prototypes, or at least full-scale mock-ups. And those counted once they give it a designation of an F dash something or a C or a B dash something, it sticks with that particular program, even if it never comes to fruition.
So when it comes to the numbering system, a lot of people will think that in between there are a number of aircraft that maybe have already been serviced, already been used. We've never seen them again. Maybe they are, tests for future aircraft that go one number up, like we saw with the YF-17 into the FA-18. Just curious, do you think a lot of these aircraft have gone maybe silent that we just don't know?
Well, I had, when I was at, I'm getting feedback there for a second. When I did a book signing at the Skunk Works in June of 21, Jeff Babion was, kind enough to give me a tour of the non-classified parts of the Skunk Works, and then we were heading over to the U-2 operation there at Site 2. We're in the back of the vehicle heading over there. The driver, so we didn't have to worry about paying attention to the road. And I looked him straight in the eye and I said, Jeff, what kind of UFO technology is being utilized on some Skunk Works programs? And he said without missing a beat, and he wasn't startled by the question. Maybe he knew who I mean, he probably had a good idea who I was before he invited me. And he said, I said, I have no knowledge. But, he said, but that doesn't mean that something wasn't developed before I got here, and and the knowledge of it and its operational location is unknown to me because it's above my pay grade. There's a good possibility. So even the president or the general manager of the Skunk Works may not know something that was ultra spooky that was developed before he got there. Now, the guy I'd like to corner, and I don't know if he'd ever sit down and let me interview him. I'd love to talk to Jack Gordon. He was one of the younger presidents, and I know he likes my work. So I may want to track him down and see if he's willing to sit down for an interview.
Jim, you have talked to a lot of leaders around the world, people that we would never expect. And I'm not going to ask you to name names because I don't think that would be fair. But you've had a lot of people in high positions of power ask you for your books, ask you for, how you got knowledge on some of this. What are some of those stories that you have from pretty big name people out there hitting you up for some knowledge?
Well, I mean, I can't remember the specifics, but I got a call from the Pentagon from somebody that so and so gave me your number and said if anybody knows, it's you. And that kind of gave me more credit for me that I would give myself, but. He asked me what the questions were, and I told him, I said, I'll put a feeler out there to see if I can get any feedback. And it turns out someone was trying to impress somebody in a cocktail party or whatever it is, and he wasn't talking about anything he had direct knowledge of. But I got a call, and I know when I was at my second to last Blackbird Association meeting in Reno before they ended it, because they're all in their 80s or 90s now. I had one old guy come up and said, "Hey, Jim," says you know everything that's going on. And I have to. It just makes me laugh because I knew this much out of a window that's this big. He said they were towing something over to the test hangar, the structural destruct hangar that Lockheed has for all of Air Force Plant 42, whether it's Northrop Grumman, whether it's Boeing or whoever. And so they towed something over here, so it had to be 2013, 2014 timeframe. It had to be 14 because I was still in Hawaii on 13. And then he said it was twin engine, had about 120-foot wingspan. But I believe it is today, since it came over from Northrop, it's probably the RQ-180, which is flying out of not Area 51, not out of Tonopah, but out of Vandenberg Air Force Base. That's where it's based out of. And they used the runway that was designed for the space shuttle. And the space shuttle never landed there, but it was there for for West Coast recovery if the space shuttle had stayed operational and had been launching out of Space Launch Complex 6, which is called Slick 6. So I did a little bit of digging, and I think I emailed the guy back. I said, but I think what I believe it is, and I think it would be an accurate assessment, it would be the RQ-180, which is an unknown, not even sure who built it. I think maybe it's more than likely Northrop. And it has it can really take anywhere from Area 51 or Vandenberg and fly to the Middle East if it wants. And it has incredible range. And it's a low observable. So that answers that question.
Jim, when you kind of look into the secret side of aircraft, okay, how do we know what's flying in? I will be blunt, I'm such an amateur aviation buff, but 1986, I fell in love with the SR-71 Blackbird. And in 1991, when they flew it back across my hometown at my hometown air show, scared the daylights out of me, which was even more amazing. Okay. It retired in 1992. We were told that satellites would be kind of taking over and that the Blackbird program was too expensive to run. But a lot of people do believe, including your good friend and protege, Michael Schratt, believe that there is some sort of flying program out there, from the Aurora to what we now feel might be the SR-75 or something even more advanced.
Well, I think the airplane, the SR-92 or whatever it was, Top Gun Maverick, that was put together in the model shop of Lockheed. That is a design study that they have, they have looked at. It might be, if you want to, it's like hiding in plain sight. Okay, we're going to have it a moving screen that a couple of million people around the world are going to say, "Oh, wow, that would be cool." Too bad we don't have that. Not necessarily. I just go back in 1980, 82, 83 timeframe with Kelly Johnson's statement. We have the technology today to fly a manned air-breathing craft. Mach 4, 6, 8, 12, Mach 16. Speed costs money. How fast do you want to go? So that's still there. There was a program called, I had a security guy. He spent 10 years at Area 51. He was a chief master sergeant when he tracked me down on the flight line on the day the F-117s came back from Desert Storm. He says, "You Jim Goodall?" I said, "Yes, I am." I said, "Hey, I got a question." Since you know everything, and again, it's another guy. I know this much. And I'm a pain in the ass to a lot of people. And I learned how to read between the lines, and I'm a good interviewer. Some guys say, "I can't talk about that." I said, "Fine." So I just worked my way around it. And all I need is a little bit pieces here from later on in the conversation, or even another interviewee, where I can throw those pieces together. Ben Rich says he thought he was amazed that John Anderson Testers, I was the Michael Schratt to him being me. He was like my brother. I just idolized the guy, and we talked every day. And it's just, I lost track where the hell I was going. Talking about John Andrews.
Just talking about, the secret aircraft that are out there.
Yeah. And Van Rich said he was amazed that John and me, and there are probably a couple others out there that I'm not aware of. It says amazing what you can pull out from peering through a crack in the door this big, and you can see 95% of the picture. I said, that's what they gave me a brain for. And I've always been in the security people, the cop, the Nye County sheriff, when they caught us all up on top of Freedom Ridge, and all of a sudden, as you're going through the stuff, as I hand one of the guys it's 3 o'clock in the morning, my ID, and I hear, and you pardon the expression, you may want to beep part of the word, and he said, "Oh shit, it's Goodall," and everything just shut down and they went away. So I've for a guy who really, I'm just an enthusiast. I love what I do, and I don't like to do anything half-assed. If I'm going to commit to something, I'm going in with both feet. I may burn up on reentry, but that's my commitment.
As long as you're having fun.
Oh, I do. I look back and I'm absolutely amazed at the stuff I've been able to pull off, because I don't take no for an answer.
We look at the conflicts that are happening around the world right now. Okay. And even if we go back, say, the last 35 years since Desert Storm, where you served in Desert Storm, and thank you for that, by the way.
Yeah.
We have heard about all of these weird, strange aircraft that could be out there spying, flying at in excess of Mach 8 to Mach 10. What would these aircraft be doing, and where would they be parking these?
I mean, there's Australia is a very, very close ally of ours. We're selling Australia, or giving them a couple almost new Los Angeles class nuclear powered submarines, and we're going to give them a bunch of nuclear guys to teach them and actually train with them for a couple, a bunch of years. So we have when you look at Australia, there's just the population is just on the coastlines. There's nothing in the middle. Alice Springs, I mean, it's that's where we have the CIA has a huge facility there. They monitor everything in the world. We could have a runway out there somewhere, and they have the ability to hide runways. You paint it the same color as the ground, and when something's ready to come in, you spray water on it, and it turns dark, and they can see it. Now, they did that in Egypt. John Laird told me about once one of those things, but they may operate them out of Australia. You're not going to go out in the outback and go 1,000 miles where there's absolutely nothing, unless you are well financed or you belong in the outback. But it's not something that you're going to casually go to. If I want to go, before they took it away, if I wanted to go snoop on Area 51, I could drive to the top of Freedom Ridge before they took it away, or climb the 2,000 feet up through broken lava to the top of Whitesides. I did that about 17 or 18 times over a 4 or 5 year period. And so we may have operations out of in the middle of Australia, Pine Gap. That whole facility is, everybody that works there has a Q clearance or higher.
Have you ever seen things that you don't know are flying in the sky?
I am always looking to the sky. Always. I go outside. The first thing I do, I look to see if there's a contrail. Look to see if there's a shape. Even out in Area 51, I went to the black mailbox. It was just a crescent moon as it was going down below the western horizon, and it kind of went from light down to indigo. Then it started getting dark. It got so dark that when I looked down, I couldn't see my feet. My eyes hadn't fully adjusted yet. And I know I've been told by multiple people that the aliens, if they're here, they communicate via telepathy and through mind control. So I'm sitting there concentrating as hard as I can, almost to the point my head hurting. Said, if you can sense my message, abduct me now. But may I bring my Nikon with me?
Right.
And nothing that I know of. I mean, all I know, I could have been picked up, analyzed, cut and chopped and quartered, then put back together, and then sat down with no difference in time interval. But I don't think I was.
We got 3 minutes to go before we have to go to break here at the top of the hour. Legendary aviation historian Jim Goodall is here tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Jim, as we, look at places like you were mentioning, Australia would be a good place to hide. Area 51, people wonder what is actually hiding out there. If anything, we know, I'm pretty positive there's no aliens out there, but there could be secret craft, that we, test craft that we don't know. What about places like Wright-Patterson Air Force Base or
it's the middle of a metropolitan area. You're not, yeah.
What about Alaska? A lot of hiding spots in Alaska.
Yeah, and there's a lot of islands out in the Aleutians that you could put a base. I mean, they have Shimia, which is the fourth island from the end of the Aleutian chain. It's actually closer to Tokyo than it is to Anchorage. There's a lot of, I know when I was up there in '64, you go into base ops and it had a map of Alaska, and it was a big portion right in the middle, not surveyed. It was they didn't know, they probably were familiar with it, but nothing was ever had finished. The map of Alaska didn't get finished for a couple more years. So there are places, but I'm sure there's places in if you want to be in the middle of nowhere and still have access to Western goods and services, so to speak, Australia would be the perfect place to go. I don't think we'd have anything in South America or Central America. But there's islands out in the Pacific that we have since abandoned. One of them was where they had the big furnaces when they were destroying all the nerve gas, Johnson Island. And now that place is, according to the last satellite image I looked at, which was a couple of years ago, it's in an abandoned state. The runway is, being covered over with growth, and you can see that everything's starting to fall apart. But there was a time since 2020 that there was a no-fly zone within about 1,500 miles of Kwajalein and those islands that can improvise Johnson Island and a bunch of other ones in the area. And we're not sure why. It was informed that because something that they didn't want the world to see landed there. And it's and then before you know it, all of a sudden the TFR was removed. So
Jimmy, I'm going to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. Jim Goodall, 1 hour down, 1 hour to go with the aviation legend himself. This is Spaced Out Radio. We'll be right back. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, Jimmy, I'm just going to put you in the green room. We got about 5.5 minutes, okay?
All right, no problem.
All right, be right back, everybody. All right. I am back. You can check out the new swag I'm wearing. The Flight 21 Bigfoot shirt right there. This way. That way. Tell you, man, it's comfy. Looks good too. Go to spacedoutradio.com. Check it on out. Bring out Uncle Jimbo here.
Get back over here.
How you doing, buddy?
Doing good. Doing good.
Good. You having fun?
I say I texted a few people in LA. And I shrunk everything down so I could see the what people, the messages.
Yeah.
And I didn't see any messages from that person yet. So.
Oh, well, shame on them.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. And I didn't see anything from Miss Sackett either.
Oh, well, we'll just have to get a little mad there.
Prod her some more.
Right? We got about 38 seconds. Thank you, Mama Catherine and T-Bone ×2 for the great super chats. We greatly appreciate your love and support of Spaced Out Radio. And Dr. Bob, how are you? Nice to have you in here for hour 2. Channel Warhorse, nice to see you. Blue Chicken, nice to have you here. Wondering if you're lost. That's okay. Let's see. Who else do we have here? Red Frog, how you doing? Here we go, Jimmy. Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight is underway. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Madison is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Legendary aviation historian Jim Goodall is here. He's part of the United States Aviation Hall of Fame, and we're glad to have him here tonight on the show, breaking down what is ours and what is not. Because there is a lot of UFO talk going on right now, Jim, and I know you follow that, and I know you follow a lot of aviation stories. I mean, how do you feel about all of this UFO talk coming up from President Trump, President Obama, and the potential disclosure of information?
I think it's time. I know I mentioned it here. I was talking with my mind's gone blank, but we were talking about what was going to happen in the future, and I just I said I got a gut feeling that 2026 we're going to see. Now it may be on declassifying 10,000 pages, but 95% of that page is black. That's not releasing anything. But supposedly Trump's indicating and Hestek is indicating that they're going to, they're going to release it all. As far as President Trump is concerned, it has nothing to do with politics, but as far as he's concerned, he says there's very few things in the military or within the federal government that needs to be classified. 98% of this stuff, the only reason it's classified is to hide it from the bean counters or from this snoopy journalists or snooping historians like myself. But there's no need. I mean, there was I got blasted for when I photographed. I was one of the first the first American to non-military, not Lockheed, not DOD, to photograph the F-117. And I had some people jump on me. Well, that's going to, you're going to give aid and comfort to the enemy. I said, what gives our airplanes and our stealth capability, as it pertains to the F-117, it is staying at the manufacturer's tolerances. You don't slap thing together. You put it together precisely, and you make sure that when you're lining your screws up, that you don't have them all lined up. So if it's a cross type, you want to put them this way, but you want them that way throughout the whole panel. Like I said earlier, the F-117, they're flying, I think, 6 or 8 of them. They're being used in dissimilar air combat. They're emulating Russian and Chinese low observable fighters, both in their flying characteristics and their radar cross section. Apparently, they have the ability on transponders to emulate some of that. There isn't anything out there flying operationally that has a lower radar cross section than the F-117. It just does not have a radar return, and that's primarily because of the physical shape of the airplane. There isn't one curve on that entire airplane. Everything are sharp edges, and the only place you have a large radar return, and it's only that way just for maybe one sweep, is if you hit it straight at the bottom and the beam came straight back. What makes stealth is when a radar beam hits a faceted airplane, most of the energy is bounced away. What the enemy radar is looking at, they send a beam up there, it's timed, and how long does it take to get back? And that will tell you usually where the antenna is and the distance, how far away it is, and what kind. And a lot of times you can tell what kind of airplane it is. The F-117 doesn't. If it wants to be invisible, it flies somewhere in full stealth mode. You're not going to pick up on radar, and neither are radar guided weapons. Someone's up there and fires an equivalent of a AMRAAM, an AIM-120. Now they have a 220, faster and like a bigger warhead. You can't lock onto it. SAMs can't lock onto a low observable. The radar screens are too small. So there isn't anything out there yet that is a smaller radar cross section than the F-117. And that was designed for, the Have Blue started flying in 1973. That's a long time ago. I still had dark hair then.
How do you look at it though with all of these places? Like, Lockheed Skunk Works, a lot of people who've worked there over the years from Ben Rich on up. I mean, when you look at a lot of these craft that they have flown, I mean, is there anyone that maybe we don't know of that stood out to you?
No. I mean, as far as a person?
No, in as far as aircraft.
Again, this is the security guy that tracked me down in April. It was April 1st of 91 when the F-117s came back from Desert Storm. And he pulled me aside and he said, I got a question. She said, I was working at the place that doesn't exist, the test site, better known as Area 51. He said, I got called one night, emergency, that we had to secure a hangar and we had to guard it. And an airplane came in. It looked like a Dorito. It looked like the Navy, the canceled Navy A-12 Avenger 2. Guys had General Dynamics coveralls on. And he says, you know, everybody is, is it operational? I said, you're the one who works at Area 51, not me. I figured you would know. But he did say that there are a couple of bases that we have, and he wouldn't indicate where that we're flying black operational aircraft out of. And like I say, one of them is within a 90-minute drive of Idaho Springs, Idaho Falls, Idaho. And I think if I measured the distance from Idaho Falls through Jackpot out and heading towards the extreme northwest corner of Nevada. And you go and Google Earth, even Google Earth Pro, and that area is all pixelated. Probably because the federal government insisted that we don't want anybody observing anything out there. And there's been rumblings of spooky airplanes flying in and out of that part of Nevada. And you want to, if you're flying a black program or a program you want to keep from the public, you want to stay in the least populated parts of the country, which would be that part of Nevada, Idaho, Montana, into the Dakotas. I mean, God forbid, there could be a stealth base in North Dakota and no one would care. Because you were asking me earlier if there was a base where someone could be operating that no one would ever want to go and take a look and shoot airplanes. The joke was when I was in the service, the only Air Force base where a chaplain has gone AWOL is Minot Air Force Base, North Dakota. Now, I don't know if that was true or not, but so there are bases that we don't know about. There's rumblings that there's a huge facility somewhere in or near outside of Utah, Dugway, the Dugway Proving Grounds. There's supposedly have been seen both military type aircraft and of course things that go bump in the night. And I keep going back to what Ben Rich told me 10 days before he died. He said, Jim, we have things out in the desert, and he wasn't referring to Area 51. He said, we have things out in the desert that's 50 years what you can comprehend. Like saying, I can comprehend a hell of a lot. And he said, if you see movies like Star Wars or Star Trek, we've been there, done that, or decided it wasn't worth the effort. Now, he wouldn't just have pulled that out of the air, bless you. You can pull your eardrums out.
Well, so when we are looking at these, I mean, Area 51 always seems to be the big hot button topic. Since your friend Bob Lazar worked there, you've met other people who've worked there. Area 51 is just a small base on an incredibly large Nellis Air Force range, which is the size of, it's bigger than most states, put it that way.
Correct.
I mean, your thoughts in regards to, is it possible that they could be hiding some sort of craft or ET technology that could be there?
Well, I look at it this way. They were setting off hydrogen bombs in the area because it was away from the general public. So there are all sorts of encampments and things in and around outside of the Area 51 box. I know when last time I was up, I didn't make it all the way to the top of Tippecanoe Peak, but I got up there high enough to see an awful lot of the Nellis Range south of Area 51. And there's a lot of activity down there. They could have something in the absolute middle of it, which would be probably close to Mercury. They have such a huge facility at Tonopah. Yeah, they have 60 some odd hangars there. A lot of them now are storing multiple F-117s. They're taking the wings off and crammed 5 or 6 of them in one hangar. and the general public and the media, and that was really irritated the hell out of me. They didn't want, the so-called journalists didn't want to go out there and get their shoes dusty, or sit out there in the hot blazing sun waiting for something exciting to happen. No, they rely on idiots like myself who always get a big kick out of when I have red dots dancing on my chest. That is a weird feeling, by the way, even though I knew they weren't going to I was hoping they weren't going to shoot me. John Lear didn't flinch. He just, it was what it was, or is what it was. So, and I'm also not afraid of dying. So I don't have some of the worries that some of the people have when they're when they could get into a bad situation. I've already come to terms with death. January 28th of this year was 40 years. And I spent 11 hours in the operating room table at Mayo Clinic undergoing brain surgery. And I had a less than a 5% chance of surviving the surgery, let alone being who I am today, almost 81 years later. You have hope. There's hope for you there, Dave.
Well, that's nice. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you think then that there is some sort of alien presence here that is being covered up?
I think they've been coming here since before we were here. The Earth may be some galaxy's Noah's Ark. They had all these creatures and everything else. And they brought them here, either transported them in a Stargate, or they'd have have to have a very big ark to bring all those dinosaurs and everything here. But there's when I was down in Belize, when we were the beginning part of an adventure of being able to excavate a non-excavated Mayan temple or Mayan pyramid. And after talking with some of the Belize guides at the various sites that have been partially excavated, they're all grad students in archaeology. And I said, hey, the Mayans didn't build the pyramids. The Aztecs didn't build the pyramids. Said they were found abandoned and repurposed them. They now figure that the pyramids in Belize, and why no one's gone in with any scientific information, because there are ways of determining, the age of rock. Said they're not 2,000 years old like everybody's been led to believe. They are anywhere between 20,000 and 200,000 years old. And the human race has been wiped out multiple times and reseeded. And that's where we are today. And,
Right.
and maybe the powers that be that put us all here, gave us food to eat, air to breathe, and water to drink, may just say, "Time's up, boys and girls." Poof. And if they were able to transport humanoids into here in the beginning, again, I believe this is, we could be a Noah's Ark. And I've heard a couple of people. I've read a couple of things over the years, sort of implying that we're not alone. We've never been alone, Dave. As a little kid, I would lay down in my backyard. This is before the world became bright lights in big cities, and I could see the stars. And I go out of I know you can where you live. I go outside. If I went out right now, and after my eyes adjusted, I can see the Milky Way. I'm not squinting my eyes, hoping I can see it. It's there. And but we're living in very, very interesting times. I believe, I think President Trump and Pete Hegseth and Tulsi and everybody that have had their thumbs on the on UFO files, not to tell the world. I think that thumb has come off. I think it'd be some reluctance, some people, mid-level people, maybe some long-term spooks that don't want, the world's not ready for it. Well, it's not your determination whether the world's ready for it or not. I mean, they weren't ready for the automobile. They weren't ready for flight. They weren't ready for submarines. They weren't, they weren't ready for, for television or internet. But we adapt. We're quite a species. We have the ability, if things change, things improve, we can improve right along with us. Everything President Trump has said that he's going to do, he's done so far. So when he said he's going to release, he's ordered everybody to declassify and release everything as it pertains to UFOs, UAPs, flying saucers, and he named off all the different terms. And I believe that this is going to be the year of disclosure or exposure.
Jimmy, let's get to some audience questions here. Okay.
No. Sure.
Let's start off with Jules here.
Hi, Jules.
Don't they have one of the longest runways at Lockheed Skunk Works?
Well, not necessarily at the Skunk Works. They have I think the runway at Palmdale, and that's where they're located, Air Force Plant 42. I think it's 11,000 foot runway. At one time, before they exited, I think because of flooding and whatever, they extended the original long runway at Area 51 from 14,000 feet to 27,000 feet. And they asked a buddy of mine who was a flight test engineer at Skunk Works, why would they need 27,000 feet? He said, if an airplane requires 12 to 14,000 feet to take off, if you have to abort just as, I think it's V1, I'm not a pilot, but just at V1, you have to slam on the brakes and pop the chute, it takes twice the distance. So whatever that 27,000 foot runway was at Area 51, it was an airplane that required 9,000 feet to get off the ground. And it's like the Concorde. The Concorde didn't fly; it was pushed into the sky, and the front of the fuselage, they had to put straps on it. That's one of the reasons they retired them, because the structure they couldn't put up with it. But there's something flying out there. We have technology-wise, we haven't been sitting on our duff, and the Boys and Girls Garden, our friend in Venezuela discovered that we have a lot of new tricks up our sleeve, both in aircraft and they didn't even know we were there until all of a sudden all hell broke loose.
We have about just under a minute to go here. Do you think then, with runway size and everything, that the more powerful the engines that these secret craft have, the longer runway you need?
No, the runway length determines the amount of aerodynamic lift on the airplane based on the thrust of the engines and everything else. Yes,
Jimmy, you froze on us. You froze on us there.
I did.
You did.
No, it's 82 degrees here right now. Oh, that froze.
I'll tell you what. We only have about 20 seconds left before we have to go. We can re-ask that when we get back, because we are going to take a few more audience questions.
All right.
When we return. Legendary gentleman of the aviation field, Jim Goodall, is here. He is in the U.S. Aviation Hall of Fame. His books have seen presidents. They've seen company moguls. They've been at Skunk Works and many more places. Why? Because he's one of the best at what he does. He's here on Spaced Out Radio.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, Jimmy, we are clear. Quickly, shout out here. Edwin Guerra, nice to see you. Sedona, how are you tonight? Welcome to SOR Chat. Am I missing anybody? Don't think that I am, but there we go. Yeah, if you haven't already, do us a favor, everybody. It helps with our algorithms. If you give us a thumbs up, we'd appreciate the opportunity to earn that from you. So, thank you. Excuse me.
You should quit smoking.
Oh, it's just winter time here, my man.
Oh, everything's dry.
Yeah, we're going through a real dry patch right now. So, let's see here.
I may have an opportunity. A new book project may fall my way,
Oh, yeah?
and I don't know. Very many people listen, hear us during the break, or just certain people, or
Yeah, they can hear us. So if you don't want to say it out loud, probably not the place, Jimmy.
well, I'm gonna do a book. It'll be a pictorial history of U.S. nuclear weapons,
Nice.
and I've been told that the facility that maintains our nuclear deterrence and does the fabrication and the fixing, the upgrading and dismantling and disposal of nuclear weapons, they've been told to declassify their photo library.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they want to do a book, and they mentioned to a dear friend of mine, they want to do a book on the place.
That would be cool.
And he said, I'm going to have a buddy of mine give you a buzz, and then we're going to meet late, after first the year passes and everything else.
Right.
And I'm gonna bring his Blackbird book, his B2 book, and 75 years of the Skunk Works books, give you an idea of what he could do putting together a pictorial history of your operation.
Right.
So I may get stuff that blows you away. I don't know. It literally blows you away.
That would be cool.
And I'm looking for a possibility of co-opting with a guy who was the number 3 guy at the Skunk Works, and finally get my interviews that I have, interviews at Mach 3, published in a book.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I interviewed just primarily the early guys. But I say, Jack Gordon's still alive. I'm going to give him a buzz, see if he'd be willing to sit down and let me interview him.
Right.
And hopefully he'll be more than willing. He won't break the law, but he'll be looser with information that is not classified. But should we release it, or should we control it? So it's the games I've been playing. I've had play with them for 50
I love
years.
it.
For 50 years. So
I love it. Yeah. That's awesome, Jimmy.
But he and Sherman Mullen both said Lockheed should hire to do their history, and and do their the overview of the Skunk Works for for the brass, the bean counters. But that fell on deaf ears. Or someone said, "Oh, it's Goodall."
Hold on right there, Jimmy. Big thank you to T-Bone ×2 and Mama Catherine tonight. Really appreciate your love and support of the super chats. And we are going to get going here in 15 seconds. CaribouCon.com. Make sure you get your tickets for September 18th through 20th for CaribouCon.com. Make sure you check it on out. We want to see you up here this fall for a great conference. Here we go, everybody. We're into the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Our guest, Jim Goodall, aviation historian. We're taking a couple audience questions right now for Jim, as we're going to ask you right off the bat here, Jim, what are your thoughts on President Obama's comment about no aliens at Area 51 and no lower levels either?
I said that here, 8 or 10 years ago. I have a friend who was a facility manager at Area 51. And I asked him, and he said he was responsible for absolutely every single structure within the confines of Area 51. Said we had a lot of weird things we have here, but we don't have any underground facility, and there are no aliens or UFOs at Area 51. And that's when I asked him, "Do you believe in UFOs?" He said, "Absolutely, positively, they do exist." And that's why but they weren't at Area 51. Bob said he said that's 4. That's the other side of the Papoose Range, in the southwest corner of the Papoose Range.
Right.
And that's where the Mormon missionary was looking for the trail of a lost Mormon tribe, and it went through that part of Area 51. And they were lost. I don't know if they were lost in Death Valley or wherever, but he tried every which way he could for religious reasons to try to get access to the southern part of Area 51, and they wouldn't allow it. And then he went over the other side and went over the fence at night at Mercury and walked in. And said the first night he was there, he's underneath an overhang. And he's looking east, and he's there's some twinkling lights, and there's some stuff way over here. It's not totally gone, but there's some life showing. All of a sudden, on the base of a mountain range, a base of a mountain. I don't know if it wasn't a range. It's just a complex of mountains, and it's called the Papoose Range. It was like someone opened a garage door, light. And I mean, it startled him. I think he'd gotten enough to water one of the cactus or something like that, and that's when he saw it. So next day when he woke up, he got his binoculars out and looked, and it was really early in the morning, so you weren't getting all the distortion from the heat.
Right.
And there was nothing there. It went all the way down to the lake bed. Buddy of mine who was on the 117 program had some time off after Ridden Hours crashed, when they were trying to figure out what caused it to crash. Crashed on takeoff. The pitch and the yaws were reversed. So when you had pitch, you had yaw, and when you had yaw, you had pitch. And Ridden Hour actually cartwheeled, bounced, and I have some pictures of it, but they were bored. But they had clearance to be anywhere in the Nevada test site, and they're on a Humvee. They're in uniform, and they have their badges, and they're looking for artifacts from mining times. There was silver mining in the area. It was a Groom mine. They got silver out of there, so they They were there about 20 minutes. They were looking around. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, no vehicle, out of nowhere, there was a half a dozen black uniformed military types with weapons drawn, saying, "What are you doing here? Let me see some identification. You don't belong here. You get the hell out of the area." He doesn't know where they came from. One thing that we've gotten really good at, again, is stealthizing physical structure like runways and doors and buildings where you, even if you're close to them, that you can't see where the door was or where they came. There's no vehicles involved. The only vehicle that was out there was the Humvee that they brought. And for these guys to show up out of nowhere, that really spooked the hell out of them. And I asked him, "Do you believe in UFOs?" He said, "Oh yeah." So, did you ever see any? He said, "No, we work nights. We work 12, 14-hour shifts."
But what about Bob? Bob Lazar. I mean, he saw things. You believe Bob?
Yes, I do. And I got my ass chewed out by a 2-star admiral when I was activated for Desert Shield and Desert Storm, when I had Bob's W-2 on me, and I was trying to find out the Department of Navy that paid him where it was located. I was in the Pentagon direct, computer directory. I was online, and that Department of the Navy didn't exist in the Pentagon directory. So I started. It was a down day news-wise, so I wandered around. I believe it was the Naval Investigative Services, and the door was open. Walked in. There was a young Lieutenant JG behind the desk. I'm in uniform. I'm a E6 at the time. I'm in my uniform, all my ribbons, fresh haircut. I look sharp. And I said, "Sir, can you tell me where this place is located?" Department of the Navy. He looks at it and says, "Sergeant, excuse me for a minute." He gets up, he walks into the 2-star's office. He's in there about 15 seconds, comes out and said, "The Admiral will see you now." Now, anybody know the relationship between Navy flag officers and enlisted pukes, especially if they're not Navy? It's even worse if you're in the Air Guard. At the time, I was with Minnesota Air Guard, and I go in there, and he's holding Bob's W-2, and his hand is shaking. And I go in there, I give him a sharp salute. He doesn't say at ease, he said parade rest. So I'm sitting rigid, parade rest. He said, "Sergeant, I don't know where you got this, but if I ever see your face pass through the threshold of my office ever again, you'll be the most sorriest son of a bitch an NCO in the United States military. Do you understand me, Sergeant?" I said, "Yes, sir." And said, with that, he said, "You're dismissed." And he gets Bob's W-2 and he puts it in the shredder. But Dave Fruhoff, who was the facility manager, Area 51, I asked him at his house. I said, any aliens are at Area 51? And there's no lower level. There's a lot of buildings, but there's no lower level. And he's the one who chased one in an SR-71. I've gone over that before, but it outran him, left him in the dark. And it was dark. It was middle of the night. He was coming back from a mission. So, but like Dave said, he said they had the ability, just on the other side of the Papoose Range is the Nevada test site. They have equipment out there that can dig a 36-foot diameter hole through solid granite, a foot an hour. And the only thing you have to contend with is what do you do with the debris field? If you're digging a tunnel and then digging a place, you have to put the stuff somewhere. There has to be a road in and a road out, unless they went a long way away. Now the complex at Yucca Mountain, that's where they were going to store low-grade nuclear waste. And they had the whole thing finished, and Harry Reid, the senator from Nevada, would not allow them to initiate it or start it up. So they have a lot of holes in the Nevada desert. They put weapons down a lot of them to blow them up, but they have they could have had an underground facility that isn't well, maybe they could if they wanted to. They had the equipment there to get the job done, and this is even before Elon. So, and like they said in the movie Dave, presidents are just temporaries. They're a temporary employee, and after 4 years or 8 years, or if something happens in between, they're gone. And there's a lot of stuff they don't know. President Trump probably could, but I don't. I think even for Trump couldn't say to Pete Hegseth, we're going to Area 51 tomorrow. Well, there's protocol anywhere where the president goes. They would have to do something to. They would have to be. It'd have to be announced, and it would be probably more than 24-hour notice. But they're not. It's not something that they need to focus on. That's way over here in the corner. Those are the black ops stuff, the spooky stuff, the stuff that goes bump in the night. They don't need to know that. They need to be aware of it, but they don't need to know. That's all they need to know about. But President Trump indicated that he's telling all the agency, all of them, NASA, everybody, you declassify and you make available to the general public everything you have. And we'll see. And it has to be done. I think he had a drop dead date. I don't know if it was May 1st was a drop dead date, or I don't think April 1st would be an inappropriate day, but for it all to be done.
Do you think President Trump has his UFO speech ready, like many are saying?
He's the most prepared guy ever to occupy that office. I would have to say yes. If he indicated that, and he did, that we're going to, I've ordered everybody to declassify it, and I'm sure he's been privy to some of the stuff. I know Tim Burchett has seen stuff. He said some of the stuff is not fit for public consumption because it would scare the hell out of some people.
What do you think that scary part is?
I think the appearance, if they're not a humanoid type, if they're something like, the first Alien, the first Predator movie, where they're in the jungles of Central America, and Schwarzenegger was in there, and whatever. It could be like they could be part insect. I don't know. Yeah. The other question is, why is a third of Antarctica off limits? That hasn't been answered. The question's been asked, but it hasn't been answered.
I hear you. All right, let's get to another question here, Jimmy.
Sure.
Let us go next to, I'm going to jump a couple here because I like this question. Did you ever know Phil Schneider personally?
The name sounds familiar. I have to see a face.
He was the guy who allegedly unalived himself after coming out as being I'm going to use the term whistleblower loosely, where he went into a deep underground military base and there was a battle with aliens in New Mexico and Dulce in the 90s.
I know. That's where I know the name. So I don't know him. I didn't know him personally.
All right. Marv is asking, in the last few years, the UFO community has seen the SSP. It's become a big topic. Have you ever heard anything that might lead you to believe that there is a secret space program, how it might relate to NASA or the Air Force?
Well, the Air Force, by its charter, cannot do anything classified, even though they've done classified things and hid it from us and whatever. I have a very dear friend. I think he's passed away now. He was an Air Force intelligence analyst. He went to school primarily to be able to pull out incredible amount of information out of imagery taken by an SR-71, a U-2, KH-11 Big Bird satellite, or some of the other stuff he had. And he had original NASA stuff that showed the backside of the moon. And he was the first person to certify the face on Mars back in the day. It was 15 years ago or so. And he said, that's what he was able to give the size, the shape, based on the sun angle, because we knew the time of day that the image was taken. It's we're not alone. We've never been alone. There's just too much. There's too much saying that we but as it was Skylab. Skylab was sort of a white program. No, it was a military spy plane. I mean, spy satellite without, instead of using high resolution cameras, which we have today, they had trained observers with good set of optics, and they could they could report down to troop movements of the Soviet Union or whatever. But this is back in the early 70s. And Skylab was a sort of a disaster. Only one of the your phototech cells, your photocells, whatever it is, to generate power. Only one wing came out. One of them was damaged, probably when the fairing came off the launch, after the launch. So now I think one of the ways to make it come out in the public is to officially create the Space Force. That's been, Buckley Air National. Well, it used to be Buckley Air National Guard Base. Now it's Buckley Air Force Base. I may have a different name, but they're doing all sorts of spooky stuff with satellites and whatever, and communications. I had a friend of mine who was at Pine Gap in Australia. She was retiring, and I figured what the reason was. So I sent her an email. Hey, said, do you believe in UFOs? I mean, it was an instant reply, and I replied, yeah, I do. I said, have you seen one? I said, no. He said, they're here, but I can't tell you where. And she's retired, and I got to find her before she moves to Australia or New Zealand or some other godforsaken place. I'm sorry, New Zealand. New Zealand's pretty, but there's more sheep than people. And Australia's, if I was a young man, I'd find any way I could to move to Sydney. That is a beautiful, beautiful women there. It's just a glorious place. But they have everything that can kill you in the world, the worst things.
Oh, yes, they do.
Australia, yeah.
Yep, I agree with you there. Let's get to another question, Jimmy. We only got about 6 minutes.
Okay.
Let's go to Jules here. Jim, if you were to experience the anomalous while flying, who would you report it to first? And is the NOAA on the short list of who you would consult? Or who to consult?
Anybody in the federal government would be the last person I would call. There are people I know that could verify. Am I smoking something really strong? And what are you experiencing? The National Ocean and Atmospheric Administration probably wouldn't be in the loop, I wouldn't think. NASA would be. There's the first person would make sense is call the commander of the closest military installation, or I just open up my cell phone and dial somebody I know. Hey, guess what I just saw, and I have a photograph of it. Can you help me? And they may or may not say yes, but I am looking all the time. I have when I go out driving out in the middle of nowhere, I have my Nikon 850. I don't have a big telephoto lens, but I have a good Nikon 70 to 200, and I'll photograph. The bad thing about shooting with these things is unless it's close or relatively close, where you can sort of make out of a shape. When you blow it up, it doesn't have the resolution that you need. As for mine, I could blow it up a lot, even if it was a small dot. But when you see the dots moving through the sky, or the blurry thing moving through the sky, it could be a fly. It's worthless. But I think when if President Trump keeps his word, it could be a mind blower. Bichette said there are things he saw that he can't unsee, and there's stuff that he's cleared to see. I'm sure there's stuff he isn't cleared to see. And apparently there's a group that's here, and I don't know what brand they are, but they're hostile towards us.
Well, we'll soon see. Jim, let's go to Jose here. Do you believe that we are now operating or have had the TR-3B black triangle in service before in our military?
Well, it's been seen so many different places. I mean, Karen Hill, who was a MUFON president here in Tucson, she photographed one the north end of Tucson. I live just north of Tucson. I'm in a suburb of Tucson. I'm out there every night, and I'm looking all the time. And I don't see squat. And it just, I have a $2,500 camera that is just sitting there collecting dust, because I have it primarily so I can shoot the sky. If something up there that I can't explain. And everything I've ever seen in my life, I've been able to explain, and I'm disappointed. I want to be that person who sees something you can't identify. And as far as the TR-3B, I said, well, there was a video out on YouTube on the TR-3A. It's Teledyne Ryan, and it was an RC model with propeller in the rear, and it was like the triangle was like the TR-3B, and there's no reason why, again, to quote Ben, if you've seen movies like Star Wars or Star Trek, we've been there, done that, or decided it wasn't worth the effort. And I have to lay it on that part, saying, yeah, there's every reason to believe that we have something like that or better operating, and have been operating for a long time. And I also believe that we're not alone. And I believe that we've been interacting with aliens for a lot longer than anybody has been led to believe. But it's probably since the late '60s, since we first landed on the moon.
Do you think the moon was a trigger?
Yeah, and it was also the moon. I think they were, according to relatives of Neil Armstrong and others that were on the moon, we were told not to come back by the current occupants. And that could be, I mean, is that true? I would have to say yes. I sat down, I was at a banquet here a number of years ago when I was with the Museum of Flight. And my boss called me up and said, "Are you at Payne Field?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, take my place at Future of Flight for a banquet. It's a Korean War Fighter Pilot Association." So I went, I sit down, they have my name there. I don't pay attention to who's sitting to my right. All of a sudden I look over, it's Buzz Aldrin. And I looked at him, I said, "Do you believe in UFOs?" And he sort of looked down, chuckled. I turned away just for a few seconds, and then came back, and that was sort of the end of the conversation.
Jim Goodall, everybody. You can find his books at every major bookstore. He is a legend and a historian, all wrapped into one. Hour 3 of Spaced Out Radio is next.
And a friend.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Thank you, my friend.
That was fun. I enjoyed that.
You are the best.
Yeah. I mean, I bounce around a lot, but and sometimes I lose track of where I'm at. My head, inside my head's like having about 40 or 50 squirrel cages, and they're
I hear you.
they've been drinking espresso all day. And it goes, zzz.
I don't blame you, buddy. I don't blame you. It was awesome. Thank you, bud. I'll let you go get some sleep.
Yep. You take care, and you're the best.
We'll talk soon. See you, Jimmy.
Take care.
Jim Goodall, everybody. We love him around here. I will be right back. Here's my schedule coming up, and we'll be right back, everybody. I am back. Well, let's bring in the Grantavius Maximus one. There he is.
How you
From
doing,
the
brother?
comforts of his couch.
Yeah.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good, my man. I'm excited for tonight. I do have to say a couple things though. Like when it comes to Jim, I love that dude. He is a funny critter.
You know, he called me up when we were going to do our Las Vegas party in May. He called me up and he's like, Dave, I have a commitment. Would it be okay if you changed the date and moved it up a week? Yep. So I had to tell him tonight. I'm like, Jim, we have to move the dates. It's just Vegas is too expensive right now, so we're going to move the dates. I'll be there.
Every time.
80
Manny.
years old. He'll be 81 in 25 days.
Yeah. Have you ever seen him drive? 81 years old. You know what he drives, right?
A Corvette.
Not just any Corvette either. That's a Grand Sport.
Oh, yeah. We're coming
He
back
had-
in 10 seconds. Swamp Dweller will be 5 minutes.
Gotcha.
Here we go. Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Medicine. Medicine is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. Now, this story isn't a rock climbing story, but it is a personal story of mine that I wanted to share with you all. I shared this in a video many years ago, but I'd like to share it for anybody who's new. I grew up in rural areas my entire life. Whether it was beef farms in Tennessee or living in the middle of nowhere, Florida, I've done it all, really. Growing up without access to most commonalities we have all grown accustomed to. That's right, we had no internet, no TV, and you guessed it, no cell phones. I know, the horror. We are the last actual generation before the internet age, I like to think. Dial-up was around, but it was something most of us didn't have access to at the time. But honestly, it wasn't all that bad outside of the long, dull summer days when we would be cooking alive in the fields picking green beans. Living in an old Civil War cabin in the middle of nowhere, Tennessee, shelled out some exciting experiences. This story will be one of the many I may share if you all enjoy it. This story starts like any other. It was a typical Friday night, and my brothers and I were home alone. As we didn't have much to entertain ourselves with, we began playing search in and around the house, which is basically like hide and seek. We mostly opted to stay indoors as it was pitch black outside. For more context, our cabin was on a steep hill with a long winding driveway. Our place had a basement level, the main level where most of the house was, and the upstairs that only had my room. We also had a back deck that was about 10 to 12 feet in the air. Anyway, back to the story at hand. It was pitch black outside, and going much further than the front porch at that time was something many of us didn't want to do. The game was fun but needed more variety, and with the little room we had inside, it did get kind of stale. At this point, I thought of wandering outside and hiding on the roof to make the game a bit more interesting. This would soon be one of my biggest regrets in life. At first, everything did seem fine. It was rather cold as it was nearing fall and the weather was starting to change. There was a slight breeze and the air was crisp and calming. After a few minutes of sitting on the roof, something felt off. I had been practically mesmerized by the sound of crickets and cicadas. I realized, though, that all the noise had suddenly stopped. This to me seemed very odd, but at the same time, being a naive teenager, I didn't realize that this only meant something terrible was going to happen. I sit there as still as possible for a moment, trying to listen as closely as I can. I can't hear anything besides the slight breeze through the leaves. Then, an eruption of noise came from the other end of the roof as quickly as the silence came. For a bit more detail, we had a metal roof, making it very easy to hear when things walk on top of it. It sounded like something had landed on the opposite end of the roof. I looked over but could see nothing. This left me somewhat unnerved, and my first thought was to exit the situation. However, before panicking fully, I remembered it could be my brothers messing with me, since they did probably give up looking for me by now inside. I opened up my window and called my brothers. They both ran up the stairs shouting and complaining that the roof was off limits. As my oldest brother got to me, I asked him if he had been messing with me and making noise on the roof. He, of course, denied this and wanted to come up and investigate. So he and I slowly made our way to the middle of the roof and listened. Just for a moment. Everything went quiet around us as it had earlier. At this point, I was already on edge, ready to karate chop a demon in the neck if I had to. Then, we hear what sounds like a pounding noise on the far end of the roof, in the opposite direction of where we are standing. After 3 sets of 6 pounding noises, it charged us. Well, I think it did anyway. It sounded like hooves were running on the metal roof, but the only issue was we couldn't see a damn thing. The entire roof was clear, aside from us, that is. But somehow we heard these footsteps. It quickly approached us and began running circles around us. I held out my arms, trying to see if I could feel anything, but I couldn't. The weirdest part is that I could feel the vibrations of something running around us, but I could see nothing tangible. The footsteps circled us for many minutes, but was probably no more than a minute at most. Suddenly, it ran off to the other side of the roof and seemingly jumped and disappeared into thin air. We quickly ran inside, locked the windows and doors, and huddled up inside, freaked the hell out. To this day, I still don't really know what I experienced, but I can tell you this, there are things we cannot explain out there in this world, and this was one of the many experiences I've had that definitely reaffirms that.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another crazy story. If you want more just like that, head on over to his YouTube channel, type in Swamp Dweller, and you got thousands of stories to choose from right there. Swamp Dweller will actually be a guest in a couple days on this show, so I'm pretty excited. Now, we start a new era of the UFO Report. Grant Baker, known as Grantavious Max and UFO Max on our YouTube channel. Here he comes.
Don't miss the facts. UFO Max, we've got your back. Spaced Out Radio. All night long, where the unknown becomes a song.
All right, Grant Baker, there you go. How do you like your new theme song, buddy?
That was absolutely amazing. Oh my goodness, thank you so much. I appreciate you doing that for me, and thank you for letting me back on the show today.
Oh, no problem. Letting you back on. Yeah, I don't know about that. You have taken over from Josh Rutledge, who unfortunately the Wizard had some family and work matters to come up, and you've decided to jump back in. And for people who may not remember you or know who you are, we should introduce you. Grant has been with Spaced Out Radio for a couple of years now. He did used to host the weekend shows, and then he has moved over to doing a 1-hour show called UFO Max on our YouTube channel, which he's had to take a couple months off. Why? Well, his wife and him had a baby named Finn, who is just rock and roll all the way. And then he decides on the black ice to go skating without blades and breaks his leg and ankle. I mean, gee whiskers, my man. You're laid
Oh,
up
yeah.
on a couch right now while we do this.
Absolutely. But I'm still here. Hey, nothing's going to stop me.
Right on, right on. I got to say something. Let's get right to the UFO story here for a second, because I got a pet peeve, man. I got a real pet peeve it's an itch I just can't scratch right now. Okay. And that is the whole situation that's going on in Iran. Okay. Now, look, whether you're for it or against it, that's up to you. Okay. We're not getting political here in any mode, but this is the reason why I'm upset. Have you seen the videos that they have been putting out by the U.S. military on their bombing runs, on their everything, how clear they are?
Oh, if you even look at the videos that are coming in from just their drones, their expenditure drones, those are as clear as a bell. They're all beautifully clear.
And that leads to my point, my friend. Okay? Because when we get a UFO video, it reminds me of being back in the 1970s and 80s when we didn't have cable and we had like 3, maybe 4 channels, and we'd have to move the rabbit ears in order to try and get things proper.
Yep.
Okay. Just to get, maybe a semi clear photo or picture, and, the lines would be going through and it'd be scratchy and everything like that. That's a UFO video, man. Go back to 1950s television. Okay. The black and white that's grainy and you can't tell anything. Once again, I'll bring up the rabbit ears because I think that's funny, but that's what we are getting. I want the videos. If you want to impress me with these videos, give me the stuff that you are showing them when you are bombing the hell out of Iran. Okay. I want that clear a video for UFOs. They have them, Grant.
You know they do. I was just about to say that. They absolutely have them. In fact, there has been people on the Senate that has talked about this, including David Grush and other people, that they have a lot more videos that are extremely clear. I mean, high definition 4K. Right? So we know that they have those.
I think the reason why we don't have them is because people used to put tinfoil on the rabbit ears. Okay. And they don't want us putting tinfoil on our heads so that way we can get the clearer video. I don't think they want us to do that. I mean, but on a serious note, it goes to show how ripped off we are as a UFO community. Okay. When you have these extremely clear videos of missiles being launched or specific targets being hit in a war zone. And yet when you get these UFO videos, it's like my 12-year-old filmed them when he was 3 years old.
Yep. Okay.
No focus, grainy. Okay. The worst technology that we have. Like we're talking, 7-Eleven type security camera type footage here. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous, my friend, that we get that and we're like, oh, well, that's a UAP. That's a UAP. Show me them UAPs. Okay. And in the meantime, you want to see a cruise missile blow up a military base? Boom, there it is. And you got your choice, color or black and white, zoomed in, zoomed out. Man, I mean, they should put up their own military channel just for stuff like that. I know they have them in the US. We don't get them up here in Canada. But it just bugs the hell out of me because I really do believe that they have some high quality videos of these craft that they are not releasing. For whatever reason, they are not releasing. Maybe it shows alien, non-human intelligence flying these craft. We don't know if they have windows or not. We don't know if they could see in or not. We don't know anything. But what do they have? Well, I'm pretty sure they have better images than just some 1950s cowboy show of an alien coming down from space. You know what I'm saying? It's
Twilight
terrible.
Zone. Yep. Yeah, the videos that you're talking about, you can actually read graffiti or any like a sign written on the wall right before the missile hits. I mean, it is high definition. I think a reason today that we're, in fact, they've probably been hiding this for as long as we've had video of these things, and they're hiding it for whatever reasons that they have. You know, they've been hiding the whole thing for 80 years, so they're not going to show us this cool stuff. But I'll tell you right now, Dave, if you saw a real high definition video or just even a picture leaked out onto the internet right now, and they said, "Oh yeah, here's a real UFO," everybody's going to be like, "No, that's not real. That's totally AI." What do you think?
I agree with you. There is not going to be a single video of UFOs, of aliens, Bigfoot, Dogman, gnomes, any cryptid creature anymore that we are going to be trusting. Thank you to AI. AI, as much as I like AI, and trust me, I do believe it has a lot of benefits for society if we use it properly, but we won't. Okay. Getting evidence for what we do, it's killed it. It has killed it, because if you don't know that person specifically now who's made that video, who was out in the field and caught that Bigfoot running through the trees, or that dog man sneaking up behind them, or that ghost apparition walking down a hallway, or the UFO coming down for a landing in the sky, if you don't know that person, you are not going to trust that film. And that film, you know, is never going to get on television, so there's no point there. So the days of all of these people thinking they're going to get the next $1 million Patterson Gimlin film, it's done. It's over. It's AI has killed that. And as AI gets stronger and stronger every single day, it's not week by week, it's not month by month now. It's every single day, and faster and quicker with its responses and what you want. It's amazing what you can make. It's amazing what we are going to see. Video evidence is done. And I heard a scary, scary thing from my new videographer that I have working with me here on Haunted 108. He's a real tech geek. And he was telling me recently, actually yesterday when he was over, he was saying that AI is going to, how did he put it? AI videos are going to take over the monetization portion of social media. So that way, we're already seeing it happen, especially in our field, with a lot of UFO channels all of a sudden seeing their viewership and watch time downgraded substantially. I know ours has been downgraded by at least 33 to 40%. And I've showed you the stats on YouTube, that is, not on the radio, not anywhere else, but on YouTube alone, 33 to 40%. And I know people who've gone more than that. AI is killing what we are doing. And, you know, like video killed the radio star. Now it's AI killing the video star. So I want those clear videos of UFOs from the government. Now, are they going to send us AI videos of UFOs, or are they going to give us the real thing?
Well, that's where your conspiracy theorist falls into play, because everybody's trying to look at the United States government, particularly saying, okay, what's really coming out of this, especially with the other topics that we were talking about tonight when it comes to, you know, just a few weeks ago with Obama and Trump talking about aliens being real, and Trump saying, okay, capital D disclosure, let's go for this. And, you know, once they start coming out and rolling out with this stuff, what's stopping them from using AI? What's stopping them from using it as a big smoke and mirrors? Because that's exactly what they have the opportunity to do now.
If you had the smoking gun UFO evidence, let's say at home in Klamath Falls, Oregon, where you are, and you had a UFO land, let's say you're out on your boat,
Right.
and you had a UFO land in the water, and then eventually, say 20 minutes later, take off from the water, and you filmed it all, would you release it?
I would in a very systematic way. So I wouldn't upload it off of my device. So just like Jim was saying of his Nikon, I have a P900 that I usually carry with me everywhere I go. I also have a very high quality. This is not the phone. This is one of my extras, but I have a Pro Max 17 Pro Max that it takes very good quality video. And if I happen to have the P900, I would literally be able to keep it on there and distribute it and show it to people and like, look, here's the timestamps, here's everything. It is not leaving this camera until I get to the right sources. Because at that point, I can still verify all the watermarks and everything that this is an original documented video. And as long as I could prove that, and then only at that time would I ever release it, but it would only be into the right hands. And the same thing with iPhones and cell phones in general. They also have watermarks. So when you do disperse that, and let's say I do get it on my iPhone, and Dave, I send it to you. If I sent it to you and you get into the parameters of that photo, which you can do with any photo, you can see when I took it, where I took it, everything, the length of it, the exposure even. And once you can see those watermarks and they haven't been tampered with, then you know that that's a real video. And I could even show everything in my phone saying, look, this video has not left my phone. It was not downloaded from my phone. It was taken from this phone. And only at that point would people really be able to say, okay, I believe that's a real video, because you can't fake that with AI when it's already in your solid state drive in these phones, or the memory chip that's inside my camera. And that would be the only saving grace that you can get away from AI.
But can't AI fake watermarks?
You can, but then it would have to have multiple different layers at that point, because behind every photo is the data, and not just the pixelation and everything else, but there's timestamps, there's everything. Once you change that, it actually changes the data to where it'll say, and people that look at videos and photos and these kind of Inspector Gadgets, they can see that these photos or videos have been tampered with. It's been documented or edited by this particular program, because every single program that touches a video or a photo leaves its own slight trace or a slight watermark in there that says I was here. And it's very hard for an AI right now at this point in time to fake that, to be able to get in there without leaving a trace and doctor that kind of video, especially when I own the original and I can constantly keep letting it out, being like, no, I have the original. All I'm doing is sending a duplicate of it out. I have it in my phone, and that's something it can't fake right now, unless it's able to hack into your phone directly. Not saying that people can't do that, but that's a long process, and something that little piddly old Grant in Klamath Falls isn't going to have the CIA or somebody hacking my phone just to do a little bit of a watermark on it. I wouldn't think they wouldn't be able to get in my camera, thank goodness.
We got about 45 seconds here before we have to go to break. At the bottom of the hour, Grant Baker from UFO Max here on the UFO Report, hanging on out with us. When we come back from the break, Grant, there was a very interesting topic brought up in the UFO or the Epstein hearings, pardon me, with Anna Paulina Luna and Tim Burleson talking and asking questions of Hillary Clinton, not only about UFOs, but a mythical creature called Gilgamesh.
Yeah.
And Gilgamesh, after you hear this, what Grant says, may be real. This is scary. This is weird. And this is next with Grant Baker, UFO Max, on the UFO Report on Spaced Out Radio.
This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
Can we all just take a couple of seconds here, bow down and praise the mustache of Terry Hall as he is in the chat room right now? And I know Terry's going to be laughing and rolling his eyes at me, but you know what? That mustache of knowledge is just powerful. Remember when you had that mustache of power, Grant? Remember those days?
Yeah, that was like 5 weeks ago before I broke my leg, or yeah, about right when I broke my leg, and then I sat in the hospital for a few days, and then I ended up shaving it all off. Unfortunately, it comes back quick. I can bring it right back for you. But Terry Hall has an epic mustache. I love him.
Terry Hall's mustache is epic, especially when he goes full handlebar. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. You want to piss Terry Hall off? He will go full handlebar on you.
I love it.
How do I know when Terry Hall is pissed off at me? It's full handlebar, man. It's not even, he goes and he shaves the chin off. Okay. And he's full handlebar.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Terry Hall.
I've seen him irritated before. I have seen him irritated before.
Me too.
But I love him though. I mean, yeah, I've spent some time with the guy.
He's
great.
my 3 a.m. friend.
That's awesome.
Yeah. When I'm in the States, he's a phone call away. Doesn't matter where you are.
Yeah, I got lucky, man. I got to spend a 3-day weekend with him when we were visiting Kevin Day.
That's right.
Yeah.
Look at the stargazer here. I saluted his mustache. Yes. Yes. Oh.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man. Hi, Jessica S. Look at this. Look at this. Look how kind she is. Dave getting dapper by the hour. Ooh. What do you think of the Flight 21 shirt here?
Oh, I love it. Oh, yeah. Hold on. Here we go. Oh, that's good. Yeah, I got to get one.
Yeah. I got to build the Haunted 108 series coming up here on our store.
Yeah. Jessica S. I love it.
So I get a phone call from my daughter the other day and my grandson. And she's like, "What do you need to tell Papa?" And he's like, "Need shoes." I make sure he gets really nice shoes. Like I've ever since from the time he was born, I've got him his little baby Chucks, right? And now they're a little bit bigger Chucks. He's like a size 9 toddler already. And I'm like,
holy mackerel.
Yeah, he's already grown out of his Chucks. So I had to get him a pair. He wanted a blue pair. I'd be damned if the Converse Canada site did not have a single blue pair of kids' Chucks available. So I got him these badass black ones that because he's really into dinosaurs. So they have, I'm just going to see if I can find a picture of them here. Of course, you're not going to show me a picture on my order. So I got him these badass dinosaur Chucks coming. Pretty happy about it, to be blunt.
That's going to be killer. I will tell you that down here in the United States, I've gone on Converse's website to try to find my daughter the blue ones. Yeah. And they only make like a couple of the light blue ones. And both, I found the pairs and I bought one set for both my wife and my daughter just because they're so hard to get.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, totally. I'm going to find these ones because they're pretty badass. Where are they here? There they are. These ones are pretty cool. Show you these. So old grandpa had to come through in the clutch here. Right? No, that's not what we want to do. Right here. Those ones right there.
Oh, man. Those are killer.
Got the dinosaurs all over them. Oh, yeah. Got those.
Those are sweet.
Yeah. Stomp like a T-Rex. Dash like a raptor. These dino Chucks are ready to party like it's 208 million. What does it say? Like it's 208 million BC I love it. I love it.
Now they need to make some alien ones now.
Right? Yeah, these ones are pretty badass here. Right there. All right, we're coming back in like 10 seconds. All right. Here we go. Into the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're going to go right into UFO Max's UFO report with Grant Baker. And Grant, recently we found out that Hillary Clinton had, been drilled on the Epstein files, but that conversation turned into a UFO subject. And it not only was triggered by Anna Polina Luna and Tim Burleson and others trying to get information about what she knew about UFOs, because when her and Bill were in the White House, they were very much into this subject. And when Hillary ran for president in 2015, her main campaign manager and organizer, John Podesta, was hugely into the subject. In fact, right before he left Obama's White House to help Hillary, Podesta put out an ominous tweet that basically said his biggest regret was not securing the disclosure of the hashtag UFO files, hashtag the truth is still out there. And Hillary was asked about it. And then it got a little bit strange. I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, so Hillary's deposition was on just a few days ago, and it's the House oversight. They were grilling her on the Epstein, as everybody knows. But right at the very end, just like you said, they snuck in questions about UFOs, UAPs, and bam, Gilgamesh gets name dropped. Now, I don't know if anybody out there remembers who Gilgamesh is. So there is a story called the Epic of Gilgamesh. In this story, things like Noah were in it and the Great Flood, if you go to the theology of it. And it gets kind of crazy. Now, Gilgamesh, I'm not going to go through the whole story. Everybody else can look that up themselves. But he goes through an epic journey, trying to figure out a way to get past death. And in doing that, he had this great journey, and he was told by Noah, but he went under a different name in this, but it's basically Noah because he was the same guy that built the ark, 2 animals in the ark, and it landed on top of a mountain. So we all know it's the same person, just a different name. And Noah told him, well, if you go to sleep, or if you stay up for 7 days, then you'll get the power of, sidelining death. And well, then that didn't work because he fell right asleep. Then he says, well, at the bottom of this lake or the bottom of this river here, there's a weed. And if you get that weed and ingest it or whatever, then you can live an eternal life. Well, he goes down there, gets tired, brings it back to the shore, falls asleep, and a snake eats it. And the snake sheds its first skin, which is also why they say snakes actually shed their skin, because that's their way of rejuvenation. Anyways, just to give you a backstory on Gilgamesh. So this isn't random, though. They asked if she ever got blocked from files on UAP or Gilgamesh. She plays coy and says she never asked, so they never denied. But why even ask? So because of the Podesta leaks, like you were talking about in 2016, that was the WikiLeaks one. They had people FOIAing, and this is for a FOIA request. This is very interesting. They were asking, and this is literally verbatim, resurrection chamber of Gilgamesh and buried Nephilim. Okay, that's not from her, but that was back from what they were FOIAing. So that ties to her in a full circle. So this is an ancient tech hunt, is what everybody thinks is going on, and there was a misdirection because people were chasing exactly. It's like the fountain of youth. So when German scientists found the tomb of Gilgamesh, that was back during the Gulf War. And so all of a sudden, the way the story goes is they find the tomb, they find the Epic of Gilgamesh, this cuneiform tablet that was written down, and they're going in, they're trying to figure out, okay, what's going on? Why are we having a war shortly thereafter this? And it was a bungled war, but the United States military took command of that area, and they made a perimeter so no one's allowed in there. And there were people that had video footage on their phones, but back then phones weren't that great, or cameras weren't that great. Sorry, not on the phones. And they were seen taking out, one was a big dark object out of this area and flying it away, getting it out of there. And so there's all this kind of woo and hubbub going around that particular time. So the tomb on April 29th, 2003, BBC drops the bomb. German team led by Jörg Fassbinder uses magnet geometry under the old Euphrates bed near Uruk. Now, Uruk is the old school in the Epic of Gilgamesh that is now Iraq today. So for anybody that needs to know what Uruk is, that's what it is. They map canals, gardens, Babylonian houses like the Venice in the desert. And there, a building that looks very similar to the Epic's burial site where Gilgamesh got sealed as the river parted. And they don't want to say too much about it, but it looks very similar. They say that there was no giant skeleton, the soil anatomies matching the myth. War kicks off days later, U.S. rolls in, Baghdad falls. The National Museum gets torched. Okay, so 15,000 artifacts, if anybody remembers this, vanished. And they left all the fake stuff, the stuff that would have out there that they would make to show you what it looked like, you know, a rendition of what this was. The real things were there. They just didn't put them on display. Well, all the real ones, the real artifacts got taken. And whoever went in there knew what they were doing, knew what they were looking for. And official line, there was chaos, there was looters. Insiders say it was targeted. Only the good stuff was gone, tablets, seals, and maybe that resurrection plant from the Epic of Gilgamesh, and the one he lost to the snake, the youth restorer, eternal life hack. So here's the twist. So the military says there's no hard proof of seized corpses or anything like that, but the timing of it is too perfect. There's invasion that starts right after BBC story, and I mean right after it. Once everybody finds out, bam, invasion. Euphrates dries up, droughts later expose more sites. There was whispers of black helicopters hauling out something big. Fringe vids showing blurry giants. You know, are they fake or not? DARPA into gene editing, cloning, anti-aging. Nephilim bloodlines start being talked about. Gilgamesh was 2/3 God, by the way. He was a hybrid DNA of 2/3 God and 1 of human. So if they crack this tomb, why not extract it? Reverse engineer it for immortality or weaponize it. The Epstein crowd, Clinton, Podesta, obsessed with longevity. I mean,
a lot of the elites. I mean, you look at Jeff Bezos, who has talked about investing into life longevity. You know, I believe the numbers were living between 150 and 300 years old, getting back to that old style. And if that is true, here's the other thing that kind of made me, you know, perk up when I saw this, because I've always said on this show, every now and again, I'll say, you know what, I wonder if there's any immortals walking on the planet. If this Gilgamesh story is real, and I'm not saying it is, okay, but let's just say hypothetically it is, okay, and that they do have the proof and they do have everything, there's a chance that there are immortals walking on the earth right now.
So going back to times like this, you know, where we have the King's List. Do you remember the King's List, where there was certain kings that were rulers for 10,000 years? You know, and we have this list written in, you know, on papyrus and clay tablets and stuff like that. It has been documented that these people have survived for many, many, many millennia. So it's, are there people today? I could go on to biblical people. There's one in particular that's probably still walking the earth, and it was one of the apostles. And so when you start looking at all these crazy stories, you know, who's really running this planet? Somebody that might have lived through every single age, period, that cannot die, is just kicking it with us and knows everything about everything and is able to control everything. I mean, it could happen. Absolutely.
It is pretty cool to think. It really is. By the way, I know this is a little bit off script here, okay, but Karen Hill, pardon me, from Tucson MUFON sent me this strange text message tonight. Okay. And apparently, and I'm going to read what she said from a friend of hers named Benjamin, that apparently they were notified people all over the world are hearing this signal code right now. It sounds like Morse code, but it isn't. Random gibberish, not Morse code. It's being heard right now all over the world, from Arizona, where they are, to Greece, to Russia, to Japan and China. None of the amateur radio people are being able to figure out what it is. Conditions for radio reception have been varying all night and all day around the planet, so on and so forth. I mean, it is very, very weird that this is going on. She goes on to tell me that it's been happening for days, that people have noticed this, and it sounds like it could be Morse code
For a countdown.
and not aliens. So just keep an eye out on that. I just wanted to quickly mention that. Keep an eye out on that if you hear any strange signals. Go ahead, Grant.
I will keep an eye out on that one. I do want to know, are these amateur ham operators?
That I don't know.
Because if they are ham operators, and they're hearing it all across the globe via skip or whatever, then I'll start looking in that direction, because I got some ties there that I can dig into. But otherwise, yeah, I'll dig into that for you. Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely.
For sure. Where are we going from here, my friend?
Well, I mean, we are still on the track, everybody. Last week we talked about the Trump directive for UAP. I'd rather just say UFO, folks. UAP just kills me.
Yep.
And he posted on Truth Social, directing Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and other agencies to start identifying and releasing the government files for extraterrestrial life, unidentified aerial phenomenon, and UFOs, and anything relating or citing to huge, because he says there's huge public interest, but any kind of relating info. And of course, that before that was Barack Obama. But Hegseth has since confirmed the Pentagon is actively, and this is quote, working on it and digging in. But there is no firm timeline that hints to any kind of coordination with intelligence officers. Arrow's caseload has reportedly surpassed 200,000 cases, and officials are welcoming the transparency, can't speak tonight, push. This builds on the 23 law requiring national archives to collect, release UAP docs, which some are already out since last year, 2025. It's sparking excitement, skepticism, and debates about what if and might actually come out, but there's no confirmed ET evidence yet. This is the biggest disclosure, momentum in years, though, especially when you have a sitting president saying it and the previous president before that saying, or two previous ago, saying the same thing. So that's going on this evening. We're also talking about scientists. Now, this is a fun one. So ongoing scientists and expert reactions to potential disclosure. As Trump orders, start gaining traction, let's say, the outlets have asked astronomers and physicists like Neil deGrasse Tyson, to reference some people, what they might realistically learn from released files. Neil deGrasse is one of those guys. I like him well enough, but he's not as deep into the woods as we are, and but that's fine, because a lot of people he'll be like, well, they could be drones or optics or birds, or some type of classified tech that we're seeing in the skies. But journalists are getting on board, and everybody has their eye out to see exactly how transparent the government's going to be, especially noting the Pentagon's consistent stance of no ET evidence in recent Arrow reports. So we're kind of speculating exactly what might come out. If you could make a guess right now about where this is going to go in the next 12 months, Dave, where do you think it's going to land?
Oh my goodness. There's way too many directions to even put this. The one thing that I am confident on, we're not going to get aliens. Okay. Look, I want this more than anybody. I'm an experiencer. Okay. I am a multiple experiencer of the unknown. I've been taken. I've seen UFOs up close and personal on the ground, never mind the sky. Okay, I want this. I want it bad, Grant. Okay, but if we leave disclosure to the government officials, any sort of controlled disclosure is disappointing. Okay, it's going to be watered down. It's going to be beige paint on the walls, and you're a single guy driving a 4-door Volvo. Okay, that's beige as well. That's what we're looking at here. Okay, I try and throw a little bit of humor into this because you know what? This is a very serious subject, right? I don't know where they want to go with this. I mean, if you talk to the pundits that are in there, oh, we're going for it. We're going for it. Guess what? No offense to Stephen Bassett. We've been going for it. He's been going for it for 30 years. Okay. So when I hear people like Lou Elizondo or David Grush or Tim Burleson or Tim Burchett, we're going to get it. We're going to get it. What is that it? Okay. We have heard the separation in the last 2 weeks. We have heard the separation of UFOs and UAP. They can describe and define UAP all you want. And if Pete Hesketh is putting Arrow as the head lead of this subject, well, we know what Arrow has done in the past. The fact that they have said there is no there. Okay, so where is it? Guess what? I don't think Arrow's lying because there is nothing. It's in the private hands of the corporations. It's not in the government's hands. It's Skunk Works' hands for all of Lockheed, Northrop, Boeing, Raytheon, British Aerospace, all of these defense contractors that feed the monster called the military industrial complex because they can hide it there and they never have to talk about it again, right? Kind of like an ex-wife. When she goes way over there, okay, you never have to talk to her again.
Plausible deniability.
Exactly. So the question is, what will we get? I think we're going to get a lot of garbage, and I mean garbage bags, balloons from amusement parks. I think we're going to get graduation balloons, memorial balloons when somebody passes and they, send up 44 balloons or however old the person was. I think we are going to get lens flare. I think we're going to get planets. I think we're going to get lightning storms, ball lightning, all sorts of things that are UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomena. We're not getting UFOs. And if we do get UFOs, what will we get? What will we get? The way I look at it, the safest way, Grant, for them to do this, okay, the safest way, if they bring up UFOs or alien life, we found a signal. It's 25 million light years away. It's in a Goldilocks zone somewhere. Pick your constellation. Okay. We found a signal, and it does not sound like regular space noise. This one has something special about it. We believe there may be life on this planet, and they'll come up with some silly name like XR2PYJ-002. And that's what they will do. That's what I think. It's their safest way out of getting, because we can admit that there's aliens all over the place, Grant. We don't have to admit they're here. When we admit they're here, it's going to cause a lot of troubles. That's what I'm getting at.
Well, I mean, I think they're already here. I really do. And you just sat there and said one thing. So late February, early March, the James Webb Space Telescope, which I had just read this today too, has found another world, or it's in a galaxy actually, that they found a planet that has, different signatures of life, including methane and other signatures. And it's called the IRAS 07251-0248. So if anybody wants to look that up, that's the galaxy. And yeah, they're saying, oh, look what we found. And that's probably what they're going to do, is just start using, the methyl radical and the methane and the acetylene and benzene. They're like, this is what we found on this planet. And so we know there's life inhabiting planets out there. And that's going to be our disclosure because, they're 300 light years away. They're not going to be here anytime soon, or 3,000, 4,000, or a billion, whatever it is. And it's like, okay, thanks. But what we're seeing in the sky is just like what Grant Cameron was saying not too long back, and has said this consistently for the last God knows how many years. Back in the days where these pirates or these people back in the 16s, 1500s were seeing these ships, wooden ships in the sky flying around. Oh, we're from Mars, we're from Venus. And then they went to UFOs back in, the late 30s, 40s, and it just keeps changing. And now it's balls of light that are changing around. And I don't know. I think this thing has the ability to change its appearance. Think it has the ability to go through walls. It can do whatever it wants. I believe whatever this technology is definitely, but well beyond not only our physical senses, but well beyond our capabilities.
Well, we're going to find out. Grant, thank you for a wonderful, wonderful kickoff to you doing the UFO report here on Spaced Out Radio. Grant Baker, everybody, otherwise known as UFO Max around these parts. We love him. He is brilliant. He is eloquent, and he is a dogged researcher into the weird and strange. And we absolutely think he is a benefit to what we do here on this show. So thank you, Grant, very, very much.
Thank you so much. Look forward to talking to you soon.
Grant Baker, everybody, as we say goodnight to him, and hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Rocking in the background for little brothers watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat room tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X, hashtag Spaced Out Radio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyrighted Spaced Out Radio and Bigfoot Broadcasting Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
We're watching.
we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. Good job, Grant.
Heck yeah, my man. That was awesome.
That was fun, man. That was fun. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm getting into some weird esoteric stuff now, man. Ooh, boy.
If that Gilgamesh stuff is real, like, wow.
So what gets even crazier is if people actually read the Epic of Gilgamesh, it's actually a poem almost. It's like a love poem to life. But the crazy thing is Gilgamesh was actually a ruler of Iraq. And he was just kind of like, everybody thought he was a Nephilim because he was a bigger dude. And he was strong as an ox. In fact, there was, in the stories, it tells of the gods sending down another being that was supposed to fight him and take him on. And they ended up stalemating. and becoming best of friends. Well, then when his friend died, then he went on his epic journey to try to find, because it scared the hell out of him about dying. He didn't want to die. And so he went on his epic journey of trying to figure out how to live forever. That's when he came across Noah and other giants, and Noah told him how to do it. And then back in Iraq, in real Iraq today, when they found his tomb, there were things in it that could possibly have made him live, because he already lived a lot longer than normal, what we think of today as normal life. And most things like Noah, heck, he was in what, 600-700 years old when he died. And they think that he had some type of, either they're going for his body to get the genetic DNA out of him to figure out how to reverse engineer that to live forever, or at least do something to reverse the aging process, or there was something there that they took out that could do it, like an actual chamber, if anybody wants to think of a rejuvenation chamber. So yeah, crazy stuff.
All right, man. Give me 2 seconds here. I just gotta see if this is transferred over here. Yeah, it should be. I always forget to do this part. I got it in my brain right now to do it. I'm gonna do it. Yeah, that's gonna be weird to think.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been getting into more stuff than that. It's like Grant Cameron, actually, a while back when he started going into it's all about consciousness. I've spent the last 6 months going down that rabbit hole, and it doesn't end. It keeps getting weirder and weirder and weirder.
Not end, man.
No, that one's deep.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, there was a book written in the late 1800s called the Spirit Book, I think. And once you hit that level of woo, and you get way down into that one, and then it keeps sending you even further down, then you're just like, oh my gosh, dude, this thing never ends. Grant Cameron's.
How Grant Cameron keeps it all in focus, I have no idea.
Oh man. Well, he uses every single time he's on the show, his research keeps getting more in depth. So I've noticed of the last couple of years, he could go on for hours anyway, but then he would just kind of gloss over everything. So he's got everything that's ever happened, including names, dates, times, memorized, because he's talked about it, studied it so much. But it just keeps growing. It's very profound. And if you start looking at what's going on with UFOs, UAPs, aliens, and what's really actually what people are actually seeing, and all this proof, I think every single aspect of any type of phenomenon that you can think of is all part of the same thing. There was that one girl I was telling you about that does what are those called? Dowsing rods.
Mm-hmm.
Blonde girl, blue eye, she's got a little show that she does. And she all the time will sit there and say, hey, is this true? Is that true? Is the moon hollow? And they would cross for yes. And she's not a big woo person. She's just like, okay, because people would ask her, hey, ask this. And there's a few times where you could see she's actually been shocked at the answers, especially when it comes to UFOs, UAPs, the moon, what's on the moon. Yeah, it's very interesting stuff.
All right. Tomorrow night on the show, Christian McLeod will be here for the experience. It'll be a good show with Christian. So we appreciate it. Thank you to Deborah Rooney tonight, T-Bone ×2, Benno and Mama Catherine. Appreciate it. Grant, you stick around. And I just got to ask you a couple questions here. Let's mess some more stuff. But for the rest of you, we will see you tomorrow night. Thank you, everybody. Do me a favor. Leave a comment after the show. I want to know what you think about Jim Goodall, a lot of what he said, which was pretty awesome. Give us a thumbs up if you haven't already. And if you're a regular here each and every time, do us a favor. Give us a share. Share on your social media. Your show media, apparently. Love you, everybody. We will see you tomorrow night. Have a good one.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.